All right, this is a meeting of the Auburn School Committee. This is the July 8th meeting, and I'd like to call the meeting to order. I don't think we have any citizens' comments because I don't see any citizens on board here. So we'll move things right along to special recognitions, and I'll pass that over to Dr. Hanfield for that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As the Auburn community is aware, we tracked the last rising sixth grader, Gracie Bulger, on Monday, July 29th. Gracie was a bright and vibrant young lady who always had the warmest smile on her face. I had the pleasure of having Gracie in our preschool during my time as principal at Auburn High School, and her warm personality only glowed brighter as she got older. She leaves behind her parents, Thomas and Athena Bulger, her loving siblings, Quinn and Zoe, her Nana and Papa, Ken and Lisa Valerio of Auburn, and her Grammy, Jean Bulger of Rutland. She also leaves behind a village of aunts and uncles, including Kenny Valerio of Auburn, Sherilyn Bulger, and Corinne Bulger, both of Sunderland, a cousin, Logan Crivello of Rutland, and several extended family members and many friends. She was predeceased by her grandfather, Terry Bulger, who died in 2014. Her family wishes to thank very much the Auburn Public Schools for giving Gracie every opportunity and loving and caring for her as if she was their own. At this time, I ask that we pause to honor Gracie and send comforting thoughts to her family. Thank you. And just as a quick follow-up to that, I did attend her services, and in your packets, I believe you did receive this beautiful brochure that her mom made. Yes. Of pictures of her, and who would have thought she was a Dean Martin fan? You know?
Yeah, that caught me by surprise.
When I walked into the Faye Callahan funeral home, he was crooning away. So yes, it was very, very well done. So thank you all for that.
Thank you. I would now seek approval of the minutes of the 6/23/20 meeting. I have a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the June 23rd, 2020 meeting.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Roll call vote. Mrs. Holloway?
Yes.
Mrs. Harrington?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaufman?
Yes.
Dr. McCrillis?
Yes.
And Mr. Scobie, yes. It is a vote. Thank you. And we now move on to Superintendent's report. Dr. Hanfield?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure if we want to discuss this now or wait under new business, but Mrs. Kaufman had asked about maybe putting a different time and or day on school committee meetings, I think through the month of July, if I'm correct.
Really through August, if that's okay.
Sure.
It could be any other time than something that bleeds into 3:30. Unfortunately, I still have my 9 to 5 all summer.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. What's the? I mean, I can make anything work. So whatever the will of the committee is fine.
I'm pretty flexible this summer.
I'm flexible as well.
I mean, even if we look at starting at 1 o'clock on Wednesdays or 1:30, I just have a hard stop even from executive session by 3:30.
Sure.
So that's kind of my issue.
Okay. So 1 o'clock? Does that seem okay?
What was the other option, Dot? Was it Tuesday?
Sure. Yeah. Any other day. It just happens to fall on Wednesdays.
Is Tuesday enough time for you to put whatever information you have going into the packet, Casey?
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm not sure. As I'm thinking, I'm not sure. Well, yeah, because I mean, yeah, that would be fine. We could make that work.
Question: are we going to meet every week? We don't usually.
Well, so that was the other, I guess, the other part of what I was thinking. I'm not sure that we're going to need a meeting next week, but certainly we are going to need a meeting that following week, and we very well may need a weekly meeting as we start to get closer to the return to school and what that looks like, there'll be things that you'll be asked to review as a committee for the return to school options. And so it probably would make sense to at least have them standing on the calendar. And if we don't need them, we can make that decision and not hold them.
Okay.
That sounds good. And maybe we just stick with Wednesday and go earlier if, since that's already the regular
right.
date. If that's
Okay.
all right with you, Doc.
Yeah, that sounds good.
We'll start at 1 o'clock each Wednesday.
Sure. All right. So
Thank you guys. I really
no
appreciate it.
sweat. No problem at all. That's
So
fine.
we won't meet next week, Casey, but we will
Yeah, I don't.
meet the following week.
Yeah, because as I'm thinking right now of anything that I don't think there really would be anything that would to be brought forward with off the 4th of July holiday. We're continuing to do things behind the scenes on the return to school front. I think it makes probably more sense to go the following Wednesday.
Sounds good.
It's okay with me. So what date?
So that would be. So we would be looking at the 22nd. So our next meeting would be July 22nd, so that's a Wednesday at 1. And then we would have it on the calendar for every Wednesday thereafter through August. And then if we don't need to meet, then we can strike the meeting. But things are really going to start to get really busy towards the end of July. And I would just rather have the standing time.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you.
Do we need a motion for that, Mr. Scobie?
I don't think, did we vote on these particular dates already?
No, I don't
I
think we
don't
do.
think we did.
Okay.
I know we voted originally on the school meeting date calendar. I'm a school committee meeting date calendar, but that's changed a little bit since summer.
Right.
But if you want to, I'd be glad to, Dr. McCrillis.
No, that's fine.
All right. All right, Dr. Hanfield.
Thank you. As you're aware, I officially began my duties as superintendent on July 1st. I'd like to, for a final time, publicly thank Mary Ellen in her 12 years of service here as our superintendent and 5 years as principal of Bryn Mawr. I've said this once, I've said it a million times. She's been a leader, a mentor, a colleague, and a friend to me, as well as so many within the Auburn community, and she'll be dearly missed. But I just wanted to start my comments with a final thank you before we move on to this new chapter in the Auburn Public Schools. The transition over to West Street's been relatively smooth. Thank you all to the community for the warm welcome. Obviously, under the current circumstances, it makes it a little difficult to get out and see people face to face. But I did send out 2 videos of introduction to teachers and staff, as well as the Auburn community. I'll also be attending the new superintendent's induction program, which I'm actually in the middle of right now. I jumped out to jump into this, provided by the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents, and that will be going on throughout the year. And then I'll also be attending the Paul J. Andrews Summer Executive Institute, also organized by the Mass Association of School Committees, which is something held annually for the 277 superintendents that exist in the state. So both programs begin this month, and I very much look forward to attending and bringing that knowledge back to the district here for all of you, our staff, and our kids. So thank you very much.
Sounds good. Casey, do you need me to come over and hang up some pictures or something for you? The position that they're in.
I can help as well if needed.
I will tell you, I may need that assistance. As I look to my right, I do have the things to put them up, but it's been quite a busy start to the new year. But they will get up there. It might not be till December, but they'll get up.
I also have some books. If you need those, we could put them right in that bookshelf.
Excellent. That's only half of them. You're not seeing the other half.
Okay.
So, but if I'm always into, whatever you have, by all means.
A lot of Stephen King. Is that all right? Or
That's fine. That's fine. For the late nights, I'm happy to have those. Thank you.
my pleasure.
Thank you. Under unfinished business, just as a reminder, previous meeting, Dr. Brunel asked that you be furnished with a copy of the letters sent in your behalf regarding the MASC resolutions, seeking additional financial support to assist educating our students during these most unusual times, as well as supporting discussion and support around social justice related issues. So those letters are in your packet for your review. And as I understand it, those are just there for your knowledge and understandings that they went forward. As you know, the Return to School team held meeting number 3 on Monday, July 29th. The purpose of this meeting was to review the commissioner's initial return to school guidance for the fall and to review for a final time the surveys that were sent out to families and staff last Friday. And Dr. Chamberlain will address those more specifically in just a few minutes. But I want to take just an opportunity to review the work of the RTS for everyone. We've been asked to complete 3 plans for the fall. A full return with precautions, a hybrid approach with precautions, and a remote plan where students would be learning at home, similar to where we were at the conclusion of this past school year. The commissioner has asked right now that we complete what he's calling a pressure test regarding how many students we can fit in our classrooms at a 3-foot level and a 6-foot level of social distancing. So we're working on that right now and looking at those classrooms and spaces as we speak. The commissioner desires to get as many students back into school on a full or part-time basis as possible. This information is going to all be collected and be placed into a written plan that we will have to submit to DESE at some point in August that addresses how we would deliver each of those 3 options. So we have a commissioner's call tomorrow at 11. So I suspect that there'll be a template and other information forthcoming with respect to the return to school pieces. But as I'm sure as you've seen in the news and you know, seemingly every few days, a new concern crops up, you know, around this. So, you know, we will continue to work through that to the best that we can and have hopefully a report for the committee's consideration in early August. Transportation guidance and other guidance as it relates to physical education, athletics, music, other co-curricular activities said to be coming in the next week or 2. They were not put forward with the initial return to school guidance. The commissioner wanted focus to be purely on classrooms, brick and mortar school buildings, and you know, what's the capacity to get kids back to school. But additional guidance will be forthcoming in all of those areas. And with the July 15th deadline for filing federal and state taxes this year, we may not see final numbers as far as school budget goes until the 1st or 2nd week in August. So we'll just have to kind of wait and see how that plays out. And I'd also just like to remind everybody, you know, as I've said as well, you know, this is a very fluid situation. As I shared with the community, you know, we absolutely are doing, you know, our level best through our return to school committee, you know, to examine every side of the issue. And again, when Dr. Chamberlain, she'll address the, you know, the depth of the survey and the number of people who responded, which was terrific. But we're doing our very best to put together a plan that takes into account, first and foremost, the needs of our kids, but first and foremost, the needs of our families as well. And, you know, this is not obviously going as quickly as I think we all would like in terms of getting answers to families, but we're doing the very best we can as our other school districts with just the state of affairs that we're in. So as those developments continue to occur, you know, we will certainly keep you apprised.
Through the chair, may I ask one question?
Sure.
So, well, there's really 2, but one. So this is really with respect to the letter that came out from the Mass Association of Teachers, Mass Teachers Association on Monday regarding the phased reentry.
Yes.
And I know that just came out, and you guys just had your. I would assume you just had your most recent meeting this past Monday. where does the committee, or how are discussions going on that, or has it been discussed yet?
So that's a great question. You know, as I said a few minutes ago, and this is a great example. There are many things that are evolving literally on the daily. On Sunday evening or Sunday morning, MTA President Najimi was on Channel 5 show Off the Record and discussed at length the MTA's feelings about a return to school in the fall. That was then quickly picked up by news stations and newspapers, and essentially what's happening is the MTA is creating their own return to school proposal that they would be bringing to the commissioner. I suspect that the commissioner will address that with us tomorrow. In our most recent call with him, he expressed that the MTA and the smaller organization, the American Federation of Teachers, which is like the MTA just on a smaller scale, that they had yet to come to the table and join the commissioner with respect to this return to school guidance. So he was hopeful that they would be able to sit down and strike a deal, or at least some mutual understandings in the same vein that they did at the conclusion, or at the beginning rather, of students being out of school. So that is still very much, a dynamic that's swirling about. The only thing right now that I can say that there seems to be common ground, and it's only because it's what I'm, reading and hearing, is that, the MTA agrees that kids need to be back in school. And certainly that's the posture, of the commissioner. And I think all of us as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that continues to develop. But beyond that, I don't want to speculate too much. So, but that is something that's out there. That is something that's out there.
Okay, thank you. Fair enough. And then
Sure.
I just have a follow-up question,
Sure.
I guess, or maybe just to kind of keep your ears open with your discussion tomorrow with the commissioner. And this is just from today's press briefing with the White House. Secretary Azar said they were looking at, and Dr. Burke said this as well, looking at potential pool testing for kids with a spit test prior to letting anyone in the building.
Right.
I would just certainly, if that is feasible from a financial standpoint, from a level of comfort for kids, I would certainly advocate for that, only because we certainly are hearing a lot of concern from teachers that they want to make sure that they're safe going in. So
Sure.
I just thought that was interesting that came up, and that at a federal level, they're trying to make that happen. So
Yeah. No, that's a great point. And and I've yet to see that briefing. I'm sure I'll catch up on it tonight. However, the medical testing piece, and I think one of the things that's happening now, and I'm sure you've seen it on the news as well, just the continued and alarming spike in COVID cases across the country. And I don't want to get into a reason, all the reasons why that could be happening. I'm not the medical professional. But certainly, states reopened and we saw a spike, and I'm hoping that here in Massachusetts, as we reopen, that we don't see that same spike. I think we're doing a nice, cautious reopening and doing it the right way. But I'm sure that will be a topic, for the commissioner tomorrow, is early detection. If we should start to see spikes, go up, what does that look like? How do we ensure that on a daily basis or a weekly basis or whatever? So I will make a note to ask that tomorrow if nobody else does.
thank you. Because as long as we have a concrete shutdown plan in place, or not shutdown, but a containment plan, that would be helpful. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yep. No problem.
So that's a little bit concerning that MTA has not been at the table most recently with DESE, because that's gonna pose some serious problems when we get back if they don't come to terms, because guidance from MTA is going to have our teachers asking our teachers to do things that not necessarily what we would like them to do. So that's very concerning.
Sure. So
MTA is going to be as strong as ever on this point.
Sure. So yeah, I agree with you. One of the things that we had talked about as an administrative team is Beth and I sitting down with with the union leadership for the district to start seeing, where their thoughts are. Again, we have a staff survey that we sent out with respect to return to school. And Beth will talk more about, Dr. Chamberlain, we'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But certainly I don't want to go into anything, with a grand plan and then have the AEA turn around and say, well, we have these concerns and, we can't do such and such. And then we get hampered down into, impact bargaining. One thing that I can say, I think with certainty, and I think, you saw it with our ability to secure the agreements amongst, all of the staff and faculty, is that everyone's committed, to the education of our children and getting them back into school safely. And so I suspect that same spirit in dialogue will continue through, between Beth and myself with the AEA leadership, to hear what their concerns are in more depth and, to do our very best, to mitigate those concerns. So it doesn't hamper whatever our return to school plan will look like. So I'm fairly confident that will happen. But I agree with you. Beginning the dialogue now at the state level between the two parties, it could be problematic. But we'll just have to wait and see. It's like anything else. It's just another added layer of complexity.
Right. And I agree that our staff will do all they can to collaborate with you and the rest of the leadership team to make this work and do what's best for the kids. But to an extent, they need to fall in line with MTA as well, because they'll need their support at some time.
Oh, absolutely.
So
absolutely.
Good luck to that. Good luck to you with that. But again, I think we have a great staff, and I think they're going to do the right thing. And let them know that they have our full support.
Sure.
And our hands are tied to an extent by what direction DESE gives us.
Sure, I will do that. Thank you.
Thank you. And please thank the Return to School team on behalf of the school committee for their hard work. Much appreciated.
Will do. Okay. So with that, I believe Dr. Chamberlain.
Hi, everyone. So I don't have a formal report prepared for you yet today on the return to school surveys for either staff or families. We continue to gather feedback. So we still have a number of responses coming in. So until that's somewhat finalized, we didn't want to prepare anything really formal. But what I do know, it's interesting in both cases, for the respondents we have thus far, the majority of parents want kids back at school, and the majority of teachers know that that's the best place for kids too. Now, that being said, with lots of qualifications, right, as far as what kind of safety protocols are in place and all of that. But I thought it quite encouraging that it does seem on that particular point that we are in agreement, that we'd like to get kids back. It's just going to be now the details of doing that and how do we make sure that the staff feels safe coming into the buildings and that we're keeping all of our students safe. So I do hope to have a kind of a summary of the data that we'll have thus far for the return to school team on Monday. We have secretaries in buildings calling some of our families that we don't typically hear from so that we can get the most comprehensive results possible. So we will have more information to share, but we didn't put that all together just yet, knowing that there were a lot of responses still coming in. So I hope that's helpful, but I thought that was encouraging that at least we know that everybody wants to go back, but not everybody. Most want to go back. We just have to make it work. So the first thing I have for you today in your packet, you got a copy of our application for our Student Opportunity Act, the SOA. This was something that I believe Dr. Brunel had shared with you, I want to say back in April, when we initially got our Chapter 70 figures for what we could anticipate for monies in the coming school year. Auburn at that time was it was noted that we would get an additional $419,096 through our Chapter 70 funding. Once that was known, with cooperation with the town, we accommodated for that money within the budget. So this isn't going to be an additional $400,000 that we're getting, but Chapter 70 money historically has been designed to support underserved populations of students. And so with this increase in the money, the commissioner really wanted to make sure that districts are utilizing this money in a really targeted formal way. And thus we had numerous conversations with the leadership team, with Mrs. Reedy, with principals about what's the best way, or what is the population that we feel would be best served by these targeting these monies for them. And we would like to focus, if you've seen, on the achievement gaps that we still continue to see with some of our special education students, to make sure that we continue to move on training around co-teaching and the like. We did a pretty extensive amount of training around that. I want to say it might even be about 8 years ago. It was quite a bit ago. And we've had new staff come in, and the training wasn't always kept up to the degree that it needed to be. And we feel that the co-teaching, along with some work we did this year on developing a really comprehensive continuum of services for special education students, when we put that all together, that we're going to be able to narrow some of the achievement gap that we see with our students with special needs. And beyond that, as we've talked about numerous times, we'd like to focus some of these monies on continuing programs like Bright and strengthening families, and programs that bring support for the social and emotional needs of our students, which is glaringly obvious now and will continue to be so, I think, as we begin to make this transition to trying to get kids back to school after this somewhat traumatic closure for both students and staff. So, that's those are the two big nuts that we focused on with this money, hoping to support staff and the like with that. But part of this also was that the commission wanted to make sure that we presented this to you, that this was our determination for this money. And we will have to ask you to vote on this, that we are indeed okay to submit this plan as intended. So this was really his effort to really formalize the use of this money. And over the next few years, will really be, there will be some reporting that will be required to do to the state. And as you can see in the report, there are some metrics related to MCAS, along with some local metrics that we'll need to use to see if what we're doing is helping kids. So I'm willing to answer any questions you might have.
Are there any questions, or would someone like to make a motion and we could discuss this after a second?
Make a motion to
Someone like
submit Auburn Student Opportunity Act plan to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? Any questions for Dr. Chamberlain?
I thought it looked quite thorough, and it seemed to explain different uses of the money. So it wasn't just one lump sum, this money goes here. So I thought the way it broke down made it quite clear how they were going to use it.
Thank you.
I would agree with that. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, roll call vote. Mrs. Holloway,
Yes.
Mrs. Harrington,
Yes.
Mrs. Kaufman,
Yes.
Mrs. Kaufman,
I said yes.
Dr. McCrillis,
Yes.
and Mr. Scobie, yes. It is a vote.
Thank you.
Thank
for
you.
your support. And the next thing, I just wanted to give you an update on summer school. We started today with 8 special, some of our most special students coming in with some one-to-one support into Auburn Middle School. Mrs. Reedy worked diligently around collaboration with the local Board of Health, as well as by following directions that she received from the Department of Special Education through DESE, to make sure that this was done in compliance with all of the regulations that we needed to comply with, and certainly with our own good common sense about what makes sense for kids. The students are well spaced out. They have their own materials. There's no sharing. I just received a text from her just now to say they were so happy that some of the kids needed a little help. They need some training with wearing a mask, but most were terrific with it, and they were very happy with that. So it seems like the first day today with kids was a great success. So that's quite an accomplishment, and these families are so appreciative These are students who did not do well in that remote learning environment. They really need that face-to-face experience, and they've been so thrilled and had a lot of positive feedback that Auburn was even going to attempt to do this. So we'll see how things go, but it was a great first day. And we will be starting remote. On top of that, we still have about 50 special education students who are getting support remotely, who it's appropriate that they do so. And we'll be starting our Title I summer school this coming Monday. That will be entirely remote. And we have a teacher working at each grade level. So around 150 kids that'll be involved in that. So programming continues. So we appreciate all the staff that have been willing to come in and work with kids, and those who continue to be willing to do that remote instruction as well. So that was it for me for today.
Excellent. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Beth, I have a question. What age range or grade levels are we talking about here?
That are in face-to-face.
Yes.
We have, I think there are probably 4 that are elementary, 2 that are middle, and 2 that are from the high school level.
Oh,
The
okay.
secondary kids are all kind of in one room, and the elementary are located in another area. But yeah, it's spread out. We really looked at the kids who most needed it, who struggled the most in the remote environment. And we knew that because we had many staff trying to work with them and outreach them, right? So they would, and we know our kids. So we really wanted to target those kids who we knew would benefit the most from this as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that report. Great as always. And now for a little bit of sunshine in our day, and we'll move on to business and financial. Cecilia?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm sorry, I'm having a little trouble with my phone. I keep getting kicked off for some reason. So if you lose me midstream, that's what happened. I'm sorry. In your packet, I provided a omnibus transfer number 6 dated June 30th for your information. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any on that. I guess seeing none, we'll move on. Okay, I also wanted to provide to you a CARES Act update. The town of Auburn was awarded funding through the CARES Act to help offset costs related to the COVID-19 pandemic, and the money received by the municipality was available to support the school department as well. There were 2 rounds announced in order to submit the eligible expenses for reimbursement. The first round was for any expenses incurred from March to May 26th. And the school department submitted an itemized listing of expenses incurred in relation to COVID-19 in the amount of $48,727.38. Among those items that were submitted for the school department, we had items in health service supplies, district-wide tech supplies, district-wide computer tech hardware, special ed classroom supplies, district-wide equipment, and custodial supplies across the districts for each building and central office as well. So, and the school lunch program was able to submit an itemized listing of expenses in the amount of $19,132.91. And these 2 amounts were submitted with the town's expenses as part of the first round. And I'm happy to report that as of June 30th, both the school department and the school lunch program were reimbursed for these expenses. There will be another round to submit additional expenses through December 30th, but the due date for submission has not been announced. Both the school department and the school lunch program, with the direction of Mrs. Janice King, will continue to track expenses and work with the town and their consultant to claim for eligible expenses moving forward. But I just wanted to update you. I thought that was great news that we were able to get monies reimbursed through the CARES Act through the town program. So that was great. And any questions or from anyone or?
Any questions or comments?
It seems like we're in a good state right now with this money coming in. So
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And that's the end of my report, but thank you very much.
Thank you for the report. Great as always. Was there anything else that you had, Dr. Hanfield?
No, Mr. Chair, I think that covers it for today.
Members of the committee, anything? All right, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I'll
Do I
second
have a
it.
second? All right, roll call vote. Mrs. Holloway,
Yes.
Mrs. Harrington,
Yes.
Mrs. Kaufman,
Yes.
and Mr. Scobie, yes. It is a vote. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. See you next time.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Thank you,
Stay
everyone.
well.